Congressional District in the Lone Star State. Congressman, welcome back to the show.
Great to be on, Guy. I hope you're well.
Doing well. I want to start with an issue that might seem like a little esoteric, but I think it's important. You have had a hand in legislation involving the ICC in the International Criminal Court. And I know you and many of your Republican colleagues and some on the other side of the aisle in the House have felt passionately about this for a while. But on the Senate side, under Democratic control, it's sort of gone nowhere. That looks like it's about to change because I saw a whole cavalcade of Senate Republicans, including leadership, all the way to Susan Collins and others, saying enough of this nonsense at the ICC. We should take up the House bill, basically saber-rattling at the ICC based on what they're doing and abusing Israel. If you could just give us the quick summation of what you've attempted to do, and are you heartened by what appears to be a Senate incoming majority with the Republicans who are willing to play ball and actually make some change here?
Yeah, Guy, actually, this is a very important issue, and not just because it relates to Israel, although that's front and center. For all of your listeners, if they're unaware, the ICC, it's the International Criminal Court, we believe has no standing to be able to come after us or our allies in any way, but they are asserting that they have the ability to go after, in this case, Prime Minister Netanyahu and declare him a war criminal, or certainly start the investigation into whether he's a war criminal. That could be turned on our men and women in uniform, on our own American leaders. That is why it is important for us to push back, again, both to defend Israel and us. So I introduced legislation in, I think, maybe April or May, our ICC bill, which would sanction the ICC if it were to go down the road of declaring or investigating Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as a war criminal. We passed it in July with 42 Democrat votes. It wasn't just a few, right? We only had 5 Democrats join us on the SAVE Act, another bill I was proud to author. But we got 42 Democrats to join us on this bill. I think we had almost all Republicans, except for a couple, vote for it. Now the Senate, as you point out, are rightly looking at the bill. Susan Collins yesterday was tweeting out her support of moving forward with such legislation. I think it'd be important. I would hope we would put pressure on Schumer to do it this Congress, this year, and try to call basically his bluff. Schumer was hiding from it during political season. He didn't want to give us any kind of a win, but let's put pressure on him because it's the right thing to do, and we should do it. And one last point. The bill has real sanctions. This wasn't just a cover bill to say that we're doing something. They're legitimate sanctions to put pressure on the ICC to back off.
And is that based in the Netherlands? I mean, that probably gets some attention over there.
It would certainly get their attention. And this is, again, all of those courts, these international tribunals, we have a real sovereignty question. And all these international organizations, whether it's the WHO, the United Nations, UNRWA, which, by the way, we shouldn't fund. They were funding Hamas. Not what you're asking about here, but it's all one of the same. And it would get their attention if we were to sanction these entities.
I want to ask you also about a very exciting development in my mind. There's this slew of nominations from President-elect Trump to populate his new administration. Some of them I am more excited about than others. There's a handful that I might have a problem with. But one that I am very pleased to see is Brendan Carr at the FCC. We've actually read some of his stuff on the air here. I think he's been really, really solid. I know that you know him. Tell us about his nomination.
Yeah, Guy, he is actually one of the, I think, top nominees that we've had. And we've had a good slew of nominees, as you pointed out. But Brendan has a great track record of standing up for defending our constitutional rights, defending free speech, standing up against DEI and all of the things that are poisoning all of our government institutions, but particularly the FCC. A former FCC commissioner, Ajit Pai, is one of my close friends. We worked together in the U.S. Senate. Ajit introduced me to Brendan, and then I ended up actually working with Brendan's wife here in the House. But these are great people. Brendan's a super guy, a super human being, but also, importantly, a strong conservative who believes in freedom. He will be excellent at, for example, challenging this absurdity of George Soros being able to purchase a significant chunk of Odyssey, Audacy, Odyssey radio stations. I think it's 200 and something radio stations. You and I have talked about it before on air. But it violated a lot of existing rules about foreign ownership. There were procedures that were not followed that should have been. I wrote a letter about it in April. Brendan was one of the early leaders on it. But also, he would be working with, Elon and Starlink and all of these other options for being able to get broadband to American consumers. We've spent, $49 billion or some absurd amount of money, and we've basically connected nobody to the Internet. Brendan will fix that. He will stand up for the American people, defend our rights. I could go on and on, but it is an excellent pick.
I want to ask you on immigration. You and I have spoken about the border crisis seemingly countless times on this show over the last 4 years, and we were very pleased to welcome back to the show in advance of his new capacity, Tom Homan. He's been a guest here multiple times. He will now be border czar. It's like maybe the biggest upgrade I've been able to conceive of from Kamala Harris to Tom Homan on this front. Your thoughts on Homan's priorities, expertise, et cetera, moving forward? It seems like, in a major way from the very top, a complete 180.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Again, you're talking about somebody who is a personal friend. Those terms get thrown around a lot in this town. Brendan Carr is a personal friend. Tom Homan is a personal friend. I tweeted out a great picture of Tom and I at Lukenbach, Texas, in the district I represent in Central Texas, when Tom came out to visit and do events out there. He joined me, for example, in Aurora, Colorado in August when we were trying to point out what was going on with the apartments out there when a lot of Democrats were trying to cover it up and sweep it aside. Tom took the time to go there. He cares. Tom believes in the rule of law, believes in sovereignty. He knows what we need to do. He's a former ICE director. He knows how to get it done. And by it, I don't just mean, let's, secure the border a little bit and kind of sweep all this aside. He knows we have got to go identify and find the people who were illegally and illegitimately released into the United States, and we need to deport them. Yes, you start with criminals. You start with the people who are gotaways. You make sure that we put fees in place and things pay for how we're going to determine all of these ridiculous...
Yeah, and then it goes beyond that. It also involves securing the border in addition to everything, and now there's a team actually committed to it that's on its way into office. Chip Roy, Congressman of Texas, thank you for your time, sir, as always, and we will be right back after this.